Hi, my name is Riley O'Farrell. Thanks for coming to check this out. I'm going to be showing you how this app works and what all you can do with it. So let's check it out right when you open it up. Now sometimes when you open it, it may just give you a blank white page, okay, like this. Uh, what you'll have to do is just click View and Reload, and it should load it. Now, to get started, the first thing you're usually going to do is to scrape data from online. So you're going to go over here, select some schools. Well, first select the cycle that you want, and then you can select, whatever schools you're interested in looking at. And then you're going to click Get Data. Now, ordinarily, you'll be getting a pop-up that would say, allow Phantom.js to go through your firewall and access the internet. And the reason for that is because I use something called Phantom.js. It's a headless browser. It's essentially like Chrome or Firefox, but it has no graphical interface. You can't interact with it, and it just connects to the internet via the command line. So if you want to use this to scrape data from online, then you have to allow it to get access to the internet, so that's what that is. Now, scraping for schools or scraping for data, it can take a little while, but you can see here we're scraping for 4 schools, and it doesn't take so long. Okay, now that you have the data that you want, the first thing you can do is you can save it if you want to open this data up again in a future session. I mean, you could just scrape the data again, but if you want to save time, you can go ahead and save it. Now, I have data from before, and I'm going to load that in. But just so we can see here, I'll click Schools and Cycles, and we can see which schools and the cycle that we have downloaded now. So if I want to look at some old data that I have downloaded, that I downloaded earlier today actually, here under Import Data, I'll click Browse. Here it's in my downloads, this one. Click Open, and click Import. Now, my data view has changed to imported previous dataset here. And if we click Schools and Cycles, we can see which schools we have. Now, what I had scraped for here, I included the University of Florida, which is not in this list. So if you had imported a previous data frame, maybe it was data from the previous cycle, and you wanted to download data for the most current cycle, and you want to combine them, then you can click Merge here, and it will merge them together. And it will update any old observations with new ones if you're just updating an old file. So here we can click Schools and Cycles, and we can see that the University of Florida has been added. And we can see that it wasn't in the imported one. Here, no University of Florida. So now that you have that, let's go on to explore the data. At the top, we can click View Data. Or I'll just go over this really quickly. We have the most recent decisions. So if you have scraped for recent data, you can see have any people been given decisions recently? Excuse me. All right, in the View Data tab, the whole point of this is for you to be able to explore the data on your own and see, how have outcomes varied for different people. So you can give it an LSAT range and a GPA range, and that will affect these plots at the top, these histograms. So let's say I want to adjust the range to maybe 173, 165. And that's what we see here. We see the percentage or proportion of people in this LSAT range, which we can see across the x-axis, and the people included in this are within this GPA range. So the GPA doesn't show in the plot, but we're just limiting the number of observations to the people in this range. So I could make it more specific and say, I just want to see people from 3.7 to 3.9. So now I'm only looking at those people for these LSAT ranges. and I wanted to see, how they fared. Now we can change the histogram to stack instead of fill, and we can see absolute numbers here rather than percentages. And this is oftentimes better, I guess, just so you're not misled with proportions. Now again, we can include everyone in these LSAT ranges. Right now we're limiting it to this GPA range. If we want to see everyone, just adjust it like this, and suddenly we have everyone for those GPAs. Or sorry, everyone for those LSATs. On the left-hand side, we can filter between only URM or only non-URM, or don't filter at all. And we have our choice of schools. So one thing I want to make clear here, the choice of school, or all of this data, is actually dependent on which data view you have here. So if we look here, there is no University of Florida. And that's because we have the imported previous dataset selected. If I wanted to look at the University of Florida, well, I did download it, so it's in this view. But I also merged it with the new one, so it's in this view as well. So if we just look at this downloaded new data and we go here, we'll see the schools and cycles are changed. And if we go back and switch to the third view, they'll change again. And now the University of Florida is included. So just so you know that. Cycles, if you have data with more than one cycle, you can sort by that. Complete dates. This will affect both the time series plot and the histogram. And this is for if you want to see how did people's outcomes vary based on when they went complete. When did they submit their application and it was marked complete. So this is more if you want to know how did results vary for people perhaps earlier in the cycle versus people who applied later in the cycle. And then simple result binning. You can see that we have 3 results: accepted, rejected, and waitlisted for both of these. Now I have manually gone through and put in all the different kind of results or outcomes you could get into one of these 3 categories. You can turn that off if you want to look at something more specific. If we click no, here we have all of the different results that are reportable from the lawschooldata.org website. If you want to see people who were accepted and then withdrawn, that will now be added. And we'll have, we have 4 selected right now, and it will update these to show all of the ones that we have selected. So the colors will change depending on how many things we have selected. If you want to add more schools or remove schools, you can just click over here, add them. You can see them all at once, or you can remove older schools. Maybe you just want to look at one school. Now, let's go back to simple binning. The colors are easier to work with. And the time series plot, this shows us when waves happen. When do people get their results? So let's say that we're in, first of all, we can click and zoom. All right, so we can see here's December 9th, February the 3rd. Maybe we just want to see what happened with Stanford in February. Well, here is January 31st, so we can just zoom to about here, about here. And here we can see what happened in February. Well, we can see that Stanford had pretty regular decisions. It wasn't like one large wave that happened once in the month, and that's all. We might be able to look at the University of Chicago, who does something similar to this. You can see Chicago is much more concentrated on a few days than is Stanford. So if we wanted to predict when might I get a decision, well, we know that, okay, these decisions happen on these days last year, so maybe we can expect something the same this year. Maybe we want to know if they give the same kinds of decisions every day. So, do wait lists come with acceptances or not? Okay, moving on. Scholarships. So here is just your standard, or actually, let's go back. We have user stats here. So if you want to see essentially a reproduction of the plots on lawschooldata.org, you can see that here where you hover over and you see the user, LSAT and GPA, if they got any money, and their URM status. And these plots are interactive as well. You can zoom in and see, how people's outcomes were. You can double click to isolate one, or you can single click to remove them. All right, so the scholarship tab. Here you can select up to 2 schools to see the different kind of scholarships that people were awarded based on their LSAT and GPA. So we have a minimum and maximum amount. This is if you want to filter sort of more specifically. On the right-hand side, we do have the legend, and you can do the same thing. You can double-click to isolate certain values. You can left-click to get rid of values. But let's say you only want to see people who got, over 120,000 at these schools. Then we'll update the minimum amount, and we can isolate for that, and it makes it a little easier to see. And you can isolate for URM or not. Moving on to the predictor. So the predictor uses a logistic regression model based on the data that we have imported. So this predictor right now is using the data from the last cycle. So it's not looking at data from, say, the last 5 years. It would if you imported that. But right now we're only looking at the last cycle because that's the data that we have in our data management. So you can input your LSAT and GPA. Let's just say something like 169 and 3.84. And here you're forced to choose URM or non-URM. Now, so there are 2 graphs actually. I'll get to those in a minute. But here's the table, and you can see what your chance of being waitlisted is, accepted and waitlisted. And the 95% confidence interval, which says that the model thinks that your true probability falls within this range. So it's telling me that I have a 16.5% chance to be admitted to Columbia based on my current stats, but my real probability, it could fall anywhere between here. It could be closer to 20, it could be closer to 13. And these confidence intervals will vary depending on how confident the model is, basically, how many observations we have, and how true or correct that the model thinks it is. So some will be wider than others. Now, if you want to get into these plots, we can click Show here. And I just want to also draw your attention to these plots are for their school specific. So right now we're choosing Columbia. Let's say we want to look at Duke. Okay, so the middle plot will be our LSAT or GPA, whatever we report. And then the plots to the left and right are, one LSAT up or one LSAT down, and 0.5 GPA down and 0.5 GPA up. And these are just if you want to have quick comparisons. What might your probability be if your GPA was just a little bit higher, or your LSAT was 1 higher? And you can see that explicitly in the table if you just adjust these numbers. But this is, if you want to see it in a graphical form. So we have an LSAT of 169 and a GPA of 3.84. So if I look at 3.84, you can see for Duke, we have a 46.2% chance based on this LSAT and GPA. 46.2. Let's go down and check that. Duke, 46.2 rounded. Now, most of the time, you might be looking at the bottom graph here, which is based on your static LSAT or your static GPA. So if you want to know, okay, this is what my GPA is, 3.84. how do my chances change or improve based on how my LSAT might change? So if I get a 170, I have a 54% chance. But if I can just get one higher, my probability jumps quite a bit. One higher than that, one higher than that, and you can see it goes like that. The Twitter function is currently not working. I have some fixes I have to do with that. But I think that covers everything. Yeah, so thank you very much for coming and checking this out. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know if there's any bugs or if there's any features that you'd like to see. I'd be happy to check it out and try and implement it. So thank you very much.